Hi class. For today's discussion, we will talk about managing boundaries and multiple relationships. So the code of ethics po is very firm, no, that we as practitioners must refrain from entering into a multiple relationship if the multiple relationship could reasonably be expected to impair our objectivity, competence, and effectiveness, no? So for example, um, si client nyo, niyaya kayo sa kaniyang wedding. At the same time, nagtanong si client nyo if okay lang ba sa inyo na magninong or ninang doon sa kasal. So in as much as possible po, iiwasan natin yung ganong type of relationship with our client, no? Okay lang na imbitahan kayo sa kanilang kasal, but to serve another role for them, hindi na po pwede yun, no? Because when we blend our professional relationships with a non-professional relationship with a client, ayun, nagiging problematic na, and at the same time mahihirapan din po tayo na ma-determine kung alin ba talaga yung best para sa ating mga client. So there is also a risk of harm, no, wherein our clients can be exploited as a result of the multiple relationship, no? However, di talaga natin may iwasan na may potential talaga lagi for multiple relationships. So ano ba yung dapat nating i-consider po, no? So it is really important yung beneficence and at the same times non-maleficence, no? Na beneficence, alin ba yung makakabuti para sa ating client, and at the same time, ano yung mga gagawin natin na hindi kakahamak ng ating mga client, no? So here are some of the questions na pwede niyong itanong sa sarili niyo, no? So is entering into a relationship in addition to the professional one necessary, or should I avoid it, no? So again, this all comes down to whether or not magbe-benefit ba si client dun sa ginagawa nating um, multiple relationship, no? So the issues underlying multiple relationships ay yung boundary crossing and boundary violation, no? So pag sinabi natin boundary crossing, these are simply the deviations from practices that could potentially benefit the clients. So boundary crossings may involve unplanned contact outside of sessions. Ayan, for example, um, kayo 'no, as therapist, tapos wala pang reply si client kung sisipot pa siya dun sa session niyo. So, for example, 10 PM na kayo nag-chat or nag-text sa client niyo. So, alam nating hindi puwede na basta-basta lang tayo nagcha-chat sa ating mga client ng di sa oras, but to make sure na magiging compliant po si ating client dun sa therapy, maybe better yun gawin natin, 'no? However, boundary violation is a serious breach, no? So may napahamak na, okay? Nasaktan na natin si client, which is as much as possible iwasan po natin to avoid malpractice lawsuit. All right. So here is an example case scenario, no? Wherein Dr. Courtois treated a sexual abuse survivor who, despite having bouts of uterine hemorrhaging that was becoming increasingly dangerous, refused to be examined because she had had a highly negative prior gynecological experience and was now phobic. Due to the emergency after the client asked, and despite her reservations, Dr. Courtra did accompany her at her examination. They discussed ahead of time what this action would mean for the treatment relationship and how they would approach the appointment. After receiving the gynecologist's permission, Dr. Courtois sat behind her patient with her hand on her shoulder during the procedure. She remained uncertain about the wisdom of her decision until her client told her that she had never in her life felt such a sense of safety. Ayun po, no? So, in this case, no, makita po natin yung boundary crossing. Why? Because, ayun nga po, we serve as someone. So here in this case, Dr. Courtois serve as someone that is outside of the professional relationship. Kasi typically, kung si Dr. Courtois mismo tatanungin, hindi niya sasamahan, but may panganib sa buhay nung client, no? Yung dumudugo yung kanyang uterine and at the same time, very maladaptive pa in a sense na phobic si client as a result of the prior experience with a gynecological check-up, no? So dito napakita na okay lang wherein some boundary crossings are relatively harmless deviations which can be quite helpful because dito naging na-enhance palalo yung trusting and understanding between Dr. Courtois and the client. So, na-enhance lalo yung trust as the basic foundation of the relationship between them. No? However, it is also important that we bring the touching into the sessions, no? Because we should make sure that hindi natin na-violate si client with such a touching. So, however, in this case, no, mapapansin natin that the client told Dr. Courtois that she had never in her life felt such a sense of safety, no? However, we should view this as a potential for attachment with the therapist, no? Which is something na dapat maresolbahan because helping relationships should empower the client themselves. So, bakit nga ba tayo may boundaries, no? So, una, to maximize the potential of the therapist-client relationship. So, always bear in mind that the relationship should never be based on power. Wherein, para tayong doktor, iiwasan po natin yun. Instead, dapat, just like Adler's belief, egalitarian, tao sa tao, pantay-pantay tayo with our client. Next is to minimize the risk of harm because some boundary crossings, no, can be potentially exploitative in nature. Also minimize the losses on behalf of the therapist. Ayan. So, para iwas na lang din po sa malpractice lawsuits na pwedeng madala nitong boundary crossing. May it be initiated by the client or tayo mismo. Next is to maintain public trust in the profession and its integrity. Okay? So, ayun nga, tiwala sa ating profession. No? Wherein, kumbaga may domino effect din kasi na itong si psychotherapist may mga sexual dito, mga sexually harass ng mga clients. So, ayun, baka umiwas sa atin kung may mga ganun po, no? So, again, importante pa rin yung beneficence and also fidelity. Okay? So, what to do if a client violates boundaries? So, take note that this list, no, they are basically not mutually exclusive with one another. So unang-una, we should firmly remind the client of boundaries, no? Hindi kasama yan sa therapeutic relationship. So, wag mong gagawin yan, okay? So, papaalalahanan natin. And actually, better yet, kung nakasulat na yung um, provisions, no? Yung not crossing boundaries with our clients para at least dokumentado and at the same time, they are aware na nag-sign sila by that time and dapat aware sila na di nila gagawin yung mga boundary crossings, no? Second is seek consultation with a colleague without the client knowing. So again, consultation with a colleague should always be part of our professional endeavors. And also seeking supervision from our supervisor, 'no? Also, kapag very bothersome yung nangyari, we should seek personal psychotherapy to understand our needs and vulnerabilities. And lastly, terminate the treatment and transfer the client to another therapist kung hindi talaga kaya natin, 'no? So, ayan. The husband of a psychiatrist patient found a note she had written to her doctor referring to their recent sexual behavior. The enraged and outraged husband called the doctor to tell him what he thought of him and sent a copy of note along with a formal complaint to the licensing board. His wife, the patient, was greatly upset by her husband's response as she violated his demand that she no longer have anything to do with her psychiatrist by approaching the doctor in his parking lot to apologize for her carelessness. I would never have reported you. The doctor's response was to plan his suicide, for which his wife immediately and luckily got him into psychiatric care. So when the board learned that the doctor had tolerated the woman's stimulation of her clothed genitalia during a long series of sessions, it charged him with that number of sexual violations. The fact that she reportedly begged him to have intercourse and refused to stop masturbating in front of him as he instructed and then implored her did not sway the board, no? On two occasions that he succumbed to her entreaties, he immediately stopped the sexual contact, saying it was wrong. Despite this, the psychiatrist permanently lost his license and his professional standing, no? So, ayan, importante po na ipapaalam talaga natin yung totoong nangyari. If hindi agad natin 'to naremedyohan, 'no, tayo'y lalo masisisi. Because we cannot really, victim blame, 'no, or sabihin na si client mismo may pakananan tapos ako sisisihin niyo. So, again, it would sound victim blame sa mga hearing, 'no? And as much as possible talagang remedyohan natin yung any potential boundary crossing from our clients. So, always bear in mind that interboundaries are fluid and they might change over time, no? So, a common type of boundary crossing is self-disclosure because may mga clients na puwedeng tanungin, "Sino ba yung ano, ini-intervene dito? Ikaw ba o ako?" 'No? So, always remember that when we are using self-disclosure dapat timely and appropriate, 'no? Some clients may have difficulty getting to an office due to a lack of transportation or physical limitations. So, yeah. In some situations, out-of-office contact may be required on a regular basis, such as psychologists, no, who are working with athletes and coaches, wherein they may potentially travel with the team, ayun, pwedeng umatan ng mga practice or even kumain kasama yung mga atleta or even share hotel room with them, no? So as much as possible para maging komportable tayo dito, we should venture outside of the typical office, no? So under boundary crossing and multiple relationships, ayan, meron tayong role blending or combining roles and responsibilities. For example, yung guidance counselor ninyo, pwedeng hindi niyo maging prof niyo sa understanding the self, no? So, to be honest, ang talagang careful natin, we should always be careful, no, when it comes to making sure that the dual relationship we have will not be exploitative. And we as professionals should have the foresight for such. Also, meron din tayo tinatawag na slippery slope phenomenon na once na mag-engage ka in boundary crossing, most likely, mag-o-occur din yan in the future, 'no? May advantage din naman po ang boundary crossing, 'no? Wherein, it involves a rigid risk avoidance application of boundaries can be harmful because, by creating a sterile relationship that works against establishing a positive therapeutic alliance. So again, may halaga pa rin po ang boundary crossing when it comes to the establishment or the enhancement of trust. as the basic foundation of every relationship. So for example, um, meron tayong counselor, tapos the counselor is also taking the position of the student activities coordinator. So there will be instances wherein na yung taong yun holding such a position may go out with students to do activities in other places, no? So again, wag tayo masyadong very rigid, and kung talaga makakatulong, the better. So one of the issues when it comes to boundary crossing and multiple relationship ay yung practicing in small communities, no? Wherein, syempre as therapists, we might find ourselves being involved in outreach programs in a community, no? Lalo na kung maliit, maraming chances dito na madali kumalat yung information, no? Alam niyo naman, sa ngayon, meron tayong mga marites, no? So, palalahanan po natin sila na kung alin lang yung napag-usapan dito sa opisina ko, dito lang. Wag nang pagkalat pa. Okay? So, another issue underlying working with communities is yung bartering for professional services, no? Or hindi magbabayad, kundi may merong kapalit do sa bayad. So, for example, ako, nagtitinda ako ng hopya, yung Ribonets hopya, no? Tapos wala akong pambayad. Pwedeng ganun yun, no? So when it comes to bartering, no, importante na may agreement between the therapist and the client. So pag-uusapan yan, may negotiation. Hindi yung ano, magdedemand tayo na eto professional fee ko, hindi pa sapat yan. So walang ganun. Because the client will likely feel being taken advantage of, which is something na makaka-damage pa doon sa therapeutic relationship. Okay? Also, again, wag tayong mahiya na kumonsulta sa ating colleague kung fair ba, no? Kasi still, we should always remember yung importance ng equity, no? Yung binibigay sa atin ng client ay kapantay nung ating services na binibigay. At the same time, beneficence. Makakatulong ba ito sa nakararami? So, always determine the value of goods, no? Estimate the length of time for the barter. Ayan. So, talagang dapat i-discuss natin to with our clients. And also, along with the discussion is the recognition that some of it, no? There should be alternatives sa pwedeng i-examine. When it comes to giving or receiving gifts, hindi naman po masama na tumatanggap tayo ng regalo. Pero kung tayo yung nagbibigay, wag yung sobra-sobra, no? At the same time, we should also take into consideration yung um, context kung paano sa atin binigay yung regalo, no? For example, school counselors sa mga high-end universities, binigyan si school counselor ni student ng 10K na Gucci wallet. Do you think dapat siyang tanggapin ni therapist or ni counselor? Kung sila itatanggapin yan ni counselor, syempre, minsan ka nga lang makatanggap. However, you should understand the meaning. May potential meaning ba ito na gusto ni student patahimikin si counselor para hindi magsabi na something do sa magulang? Ano? O kaya naman, yung client mo, binigyan ka ng book on self-awareness, malamang may meaning yun, no? So, it is also important to consider yung culture and the context. So, when it comes to social relationships with our clients, ayan, hindi natin may iwasan, no, na maging friends or have some kind of or acquaintance, ganun, no? Medyo acquaintance natin si ating therapist, ayan. So, although sa ating code of ethics, wala pong sinasabi na unethical yan or illegal. However, becoming friends with our clients can be problematic in a sense na who knows kung sila ay mag-relapse or mag-regress, no? Because sino lalapitan nila? Basta-basta ba natin sila ililipat kagad-kagad, no? Ayun. And at the same time, we should also ask ourselves, may mga unmet social needs ba ako? Kaya gusto ko makipagkaibigan dito sa client na ito. All right. Next, sexual attraction. So, we cannot deny na pag may gusto tayo, we tend to be seductive like in small girls, ilalabas nila yung kanilang mga wrists, which is a way of their flirting or trying to attract the guy that they like, no? So, always remember na as therapists, dapat may control tayo over this, no? And the most boundary violation issue is sexual attraction. Underlying here is erotic contact which violates our client, no? So very damaging po. However, as much as may erotic touching, no? Meron din tayo non-erotic touching, no? Wherein touch, yeah, as long as hindi siya pinagbabawal, it is important to bear in mind that touch can be a genuine expression of caring and compassion and may be better for the healing process of our clients. No? So because there might be instances na after the therapy or after, for example, I have a client na nag-empty chair. Tapos gumaan. Tapos they are seeking the hug of a therapist, no? Or me. No? So, pwede pa yun, no? If the client asks for it. Pero if not, hinay-hinay po tayo sa pag-touch sa ating mga clients. So again, importante po na genuine yung meaning ng touch because the moment na hindi siya genuine, the more na mawawala yung trust or nasisira yung trust. Okay. Also, it is important to be sensitive, no? When it comes to what is culturally approved. And we should always do things that is within the bounds of culture.